Sir, we received reports of suspicious activity. Everyone needs to move into a single line for questioning, immediately.
This is my home. I'm Daniel Hayes. Before you separate children from parents, tell me the legal basis of your investigation.
Suspicious smoke, laughter, our daughter's sprinkler?
Sergeant, verify our credentials. DEA, call the duty line.
10 seconds. That's all Officer Grant gave me. 10 seconds to do what he said, while my 9-year-old, Ellie, squeezed my fingers. The smell of brown sugar glaze and charcoal floated up like Sunday mercy. With the sun bouncing off badges at the side gate, I thought, this is how a good day learns to limp. My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm the new ATF Regional Director for the Coastal Division. People think promotions taste like champagne. Mine tastes like hickory smoke, salt air, and the first bite of ribs you swear you'll save but never do. We were in my backyard in Willow Creek, North Carolina. The kind of neighborhood where people wave in the morning and close blinds at night. You know the type. My wife, Rachel, works cybercrime for the Bureau. The one you want when your phone won't stop ringing because someone across the country thinks you're a project. Our oldest friend, Alex Marino, is DEA, and he can hear 6 types of laughter and tell which one means trouble. We aren't flashy. We are people who keep our backs ready, not out of fear, because training doesn't turn off when the radio is off the belt. You know what I mean. It was a hot Carolina Saturday, the air thick enough to hum. Kids ran through the sprinkler. The aunties tasted potato salad like it was a contest. I wore a green polo that had no chance in the heat, but I loved it. Ellie streaked by, tripping and happy. 2 houses down, Mrs. Klein was on her porch, the self-proclaimed porch police, mixing potting soil with no plant, phone nearby like an altar. I kept the grill steady. Feeding people is my role, letting them feel safe. While flipping ribs and saving a tray of corn from burning, I felt it. The rhythm changed. Not a sound exactly, more like the back of your neck telling you the song switched. I looked up. A flash of glass down the street, binoculars catching sunlight. A dark SUV hidden behind a maple. Another car turned the wrong way, like it was staring. I counted positions, a habit you never drop, and thought, all right, let's see who wants to be right today. Rachel bumped my shoulder and asked softly, we good? I said, we have watchers. Probably a call from the porch, not yet official. Let's let them be right. I slipped my phone under a towel so the front camera could peek through the fence slats. Not for social media, for proof. Memory is better with receipts. Alex wandered over, pretending to check on corn, eyes already in work mode, and smirked. Are you going to let us eat with our feelings? 5 minutes. Chips if you're weak, I said. Mercy is overrated, he said, then glanced at the street and gave a slow nod. You see it too. I nodded back. For the next 47 minutes, absurdity built itself like a house while we tried to just be people. I handed Rachel $40 to pay her back for ice and soda. Don't let Alex bully the watermelon, I said. Across the street, I promise, a pencil notched a cash exchange in a notebook. Deputy U.S. Marshal Reuben Holt stood behind his wife, Monica, hand on her chair. 8 months pregnant in July is no joke. Secret Service agent Janice Park shifted slightly, fence at her back, because once you've learned sightlines, your body won't forget. None of us were showing off. We were just ourselves. To someone who doesn't understand, it looked like a rehearsal for trouble. The gate latch clicked. The backyard got small. A voice came smooth, clipped, and practiced. Ladies and gentlemen, Willow Creek Police. Everyone remain calm. The frontman wore sergeant stripes, had a square jaw, and had gray stubble. I knew his name, but he didn't know I did. Sergeant Derek Crow, with 5 officers forming a half circle. You're not running unless you meet the dirt. Hands near holsters, but not drawn. A theater of control pretending to breathe easy. I set my tongs down, wiped my hands on a towel, and stepped forward with palms open. Language is more than words. It's posture, patience, and the way you hold your eyes. Sergeant, I said, This is a private family gathering. What's the problem? He acted like my question was an interruption. We received reports of suspicious activity. Everyone moved from the house and formed a single line for questioning. The words suspicious activity landed like a brick in a bowl of potato salad. Rachel leaned in. Suspicious? Smoke? Laughter? My kid's sprinkler? He cut her off with ma'am, edges sharp enough to scrape patience. We'll be asking the questions. From the corner of my eye, I saw my people shift. Janice was easing to keep every angle in view. Reuben between Monica and moving bodies. Alex is showing both hands like I'm not playing hero. Across the street, a notebook probably read it as training for violence. To me, it's the same habit that keeps kids safe when men with control move furniture that isn't theirs. Sergeant, I said, calm and firm, I'm Daniel Hayes. This is my home. Before you separate children from parents, tell me the legal basis of your investigation. He studied me, weighing like a man reading the sky, then said, Mr. Hayes, we have reason to believe this is a coordinated criminal gathering. Answers come after we control the scene. Alex stepped in. I can make this simple. Agent Alex Moreno, DEA. Call the office. Crow snapped. Sir, impersonation of a federal officer is a felony. Another word, and you'll be detained. Janice laced her fingers. Just verified with Secret Service Protective Ops. Special Agent Janice Park, badge. He cut her off with a hand hovering near holster, the tiniest move that reads like thunder to trained eyes. Ellie, in the worst possible perfect moment, said, Daddy, are they not eating with us? Clean voice, hitting every adult like a bell. Reuben's jaw flexed. Monica placed a hand on her belly. Rachel moved between our daughter and men who thought a line meant peace. I felt it in my bones. Better to be who I am than pretend we could laugh this off. Officer, I said, you're about to make a mistake that outlives your pension. Call your chief. Verify credentials for Hayes, Moreno, Park, Holt. You're not seeing what you think. Crow leaned into his performance. 10-second speech, comply or obstruct. Behind him, a younger officer exchanged a doubtful glance with a partner. That look matters. It says, what if we're wrong? I raised my hands. Fine, arrest me here next to my daughter, but she does not leave my sight. Crow said, children will be processed according to procedure, like they were packages, not humans. A cold settled over me, the kind I don't feel often. Rachel's voice tightened like a snare drum. She held out her badge and ID. Detective Rachel Hayes, FBI. 15 years. Verify with Charlotte Field. Alex listed the DEA duty line and Saite C. Mendes. Janice added a number anyone in our world would recognize. Reuben said, U.S. Marshals Southeast Task Force. Chief Deputy Franklin. Crow tried to drown out the room with his voice. Nobody talks except to answer direct questions. Form a line on the grass. You could feel the neighborhood lean in from behind blinds and hedges, waiting to see if tonight would be a story of admiration or fear. The smallest mercy came quietly. A radio crackled near the young officer with doubt in his eyes. I didn't hear words, only urgency. He looked at Crow like, hey, maybe we should. Crow ignored it. Time's up, he said, nodding. His officer began to move. My palms stayed high. I said, last chance. Pick up your radio. Call your chief. Ask him who I am. Then every radio on every belt spit the same voice into the heat. All units be advised. Verification returns positive. Daniel Hayes confirmed. ATF Regional Director, Coastal Division. Additional notifications from FBI, DEA, USMS, and USA indicate multiple federal personnel on scene. Suspend enforcement action pending command review. And just like that, the performance went flat. You could see shoulders drop, hands slide off holsters. 2 officers stepped back from the kids, They suddenly saw children where before they only saw a crowd. Alex laughed once without humor. Rachel didn't say told you. She prefers evidence over victory laps. Crow looked like a man reading his own headline and hating the font. He tried to recover dignity. We'll verify again. Then his chief came through like a knife. Sergeant Crow, do not make arrests without my authorization. Do not separate minors. De-escalate and secure. Report to my office when finished. If you've ever heard a command that closes doors, you know how that sounded. I took a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and chose not to enjoy the moment. Pride is expensive. People forget that. I turned to the young officer. Officer Lane, thank you for checking. That probably saved somebody's career tonight. He swallowed hard and nodded. Sir, You did your job, I said. Then I turned to Crow because we had to decide if this would be a public fight or an adult conversation. Surgeon, we can do this the long way or the short way. The short way is you admit you chose a story and dragged facts to match it. You apologize to the civilians you frightened, especially a pregnant woman and children. Treat this as a training failure rooted in bias, not a tactical misunderstanding. Preserve all body cam, CAD logs, and radio traffic, and explain it to your chief before I do. I held his eyes. Sometimes mercy looks like clear instructions. He stood there long enough for the smoke to sting. Then he walked toward Monica and Reuben, boots heavy. Ma'am, I'm sorry for the fear I caused. That was wrong. Not the perfect apology, but his voice finally found truth. He knelt to Ellie and said, I'm sorry I scared your party. My daughter, who has better judgment than I did at 9, squeezed my hand. Thank you for apologizing. Maybe next time just ask if you can have a plate. You could feel 50 yards of street soften because children tell the truth without charging full price. We turned the grills to low. We put water in hands that needed it more than they wanted to admit. Rachel calmly walked Crow through the numbers he had ignored. Alex told one of the officers, please write this down. Observation is not proof. Posture can be training and still be innocent. Janice watched the street for anyone who might turn humiliation into spectacle. I built a mental list. Who listened, who doubled down, and who looked away. Minutes after a mistake show character. Later that night, phones buzzed. Chief to chief, legal to legal, union reps threading needles. Some worried about headlines, some about lawsuits, and a few about the truth. We sent our video and timestamps to our liaison office, not to show off, but to make sure the record was correct. Sunlight is a disinfectant if you let it be. A week later, the chief asked for a meeting. No cameras, no cookies, just a legal pad and a face that understood the difference between learning and losing. Director Hayes, we want help fixing what made this happen, he said. That's how a whiteboard in a conference room turned into the Willow Creek checklist. Verify before escalation. Call 2 numbers, not 1. Safeguard civilians when minors or pregnant women are present. Supervisor sign-off before separation. Bias interruption steps any officer can trigger. Simple. Seems small until you try it in real time. I argued the person who did the right thing should be at the top. Initiated by Officer A. Lane. People need to see themselves in the solution to feel part of it. 6 months after Ribs almost became a press story, I stood in a room of patrol sergeants, trainers, community advocates, and even a few hardliners who think humility is a conspiracy. Crow stood beside me in a suit that didn't quite fit. He told the truth without seasoning. I was so sure I was right that I stopped trying to be sure. I let my pride do part of my job that belongs to training. It wasn't comfortable to hear, and it shouldn't be. Then I told my part. I stayed calm, not because I wanted to be a saint, but because I was a kid once who learned that people sometimes see a decision instead of a person. I built a life where facts matter more than grudges. That day in my yard, I chose my daughter's memory of me over my anger. You know what I mean. People ask me if I forgive him. My answer changes like the tide. Some days, yes, because he looked my child in the eyes, said sorry, and did the work. Other days, I remember Monica holding her belly while a man talked about processing children, and my chest tightens. Certainty becomes cheap when you don't pay for it yourself. That's the truth. Yes, that happened. The question I carry like a smooth stone is whether it would have ended the same if we weren't who we are. If those badges had been just wallets with family photos. If those habits had belonged to warehouse workers, teachers, or nurses. If those numbers we rattled off had been phone trees and not duty lines. Maybe it's not fair to ask in a town that likes simple stories. But here we are. Policy exists when hope is late and reputation isn't enough. Checklists make sure pride remembers it has a boss. That night, after cleaning sauce off the grill, I watched Ellie draw on the patio with chalk that stained her fingers blue because yellow ran out. Stick figures holding hands, suspiciously like cops and neighbors, and one person in sunglasses who might be Janice. At the top, in crooked letters, she wrote, "Ask first, please." I stood a long time, listening to the crickets, thinking how simple it sounds and how hard it is for institutions to do. I wondered what story the porch police told themselves when they went to bed. Did they say, "We stopped a criminal enterprise"? Or did they say, "We watched a family be exactly who they said they were, and we learned something"? I don't know. I don't live on that porch. If you stayed with me, here's where I hand the mic to you. What do you think we owed each other that day? Was Sergeant Crow a bad man caught, or a decent man whose certainty ran ahead of his judgment? Does that difference matter to a child who learned fear at her own home? If you'd been in my yard, would you want me to take his badge, accept his apology, or take his hand and make him teach what almost broke him? Drop your city. Tell me if your department verifies before escalation. Tell me about a time you were read like the wrong book and how you turned the page. If you believe stories like this can move us closer to a world where we ask first and act second, hit subscribe so this story goes farther than my fence. Then use the comments for something better than a hot take. Put your story, argument, and receipts there, because right and wrong aren't lines we draw once. They're choices we make in real time in 10 seconds or less. The next backyard could be yours. So, let's get it right together.